run the government fail to realize that government itself is a criminal organization and so attracts criminals. The difference between government and organized crime is the collective belief that government deserves a moral exemption for its threats and violence. So I know you've already touched on a little bit how government is predicated on force, but there's, especially in 2024, a lot of people in the freedom space right now who would agree with that and at the same time think that one of the primary solutions is to try to get someone better in office. Why is that flawed thinking?
Well, first, just like point to history, right? Like that has been the mentality this entire time. Like I don't think 20 years ago, 40 years ago, people thought that they were doing the best they could. They were looking at the candidates and saying, well, this is the best option we have. But what does that produce? And I think like central to this is there's no real accountability. Like you have government keeping government in check, keeping government in check. You have all these like special little departments and agencies, but like they're all government. They all get their funding from the same place. They all appeal to the same authority. So to me, that's an illusion. And again, it's like, I think it's a J.R.R. Tolkien quote where he's talking about like, he's like, I lean more and more toward anarchism because I'm not even going to try to quote it, but basically the sentiment is like, no one who wants that power should have that power, should be trusted with that power. Like, I don't trust anyone whose ego is big enough to think that they can save the country.
Totally.
That they know what's right for how many hundreds of millions of people. To me, that's someone who has blinders on, even if they have the best of intentions. And it's not like they could be a really good person. They really mean well. But to me, they're shielded by this, what I would call indoctrination about the power of government and the morality of government. And it's also not their fault. It's kind of like Plato's The Cave. It's like, if you don't know anything else, if this is all you've ever been shown, of course you're going to go that route.
Especially like take someone like RFK.
Right,
like,
exactly.
We don't have to beat it around the bush here.
Right.
Like a lot of people in the freedom community are considering, even voluntaries that I know are like, yeah, I'm an anarcho-capitalist, but hey man, like this is the best chance that we have.
Right.
We should probably get RFK in there. And I actually understand and appreciate where they're coming from, because it's like, look, if he can get in there and maybe take down the CDC, blah, 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 things like this. And at the same time, there are countless things that I disagree with about RFK. And maybe, that's not the most important thing to me, but there are other people who the things that they disagree with that are some of my friends, that is the most important thing to them. Like maybe some of my friends that are US Palestinians who are like, how could you possibly vote for RFK and want him to get in office, given that he's already essentially said he's going to continue funding Israel to do what it's doing to my family members. Like, I cannot morally accept that. And that's where I think it's the slippery slope of like, oh, but these major things I agree with him on. And it's just a few minor things that I don't agree with him on, but that's you.
Exactly.
What about the other people around
Right.
you who you're saying, but I'm sorry, what I agree with should be violently imposed upon you, and you should be extorted for your money to continue to fund killing of your family members in Palestine. That's wrong.
It's completely wrong. And I think like this gets to the root of why statism doesn't work. And it does come back to the violence, but it also comes down to like, these are hundreds of millions of people. You cannot possibly account for everyone's preferences. Right. And to pretend, it's not pretending, people believe it, but to think that how many hundreds of people are in Congress, like a few hundred, 400, and even you add.
I should know that because I went to West Point and I just like threw all of that out of my head.
I'm trying to forget. I don't want to know. It doesn't matter.
Maybe like when you learn something and you brain dump it afterwards.
Yeah, right.